This city has stories, and so do we. It's not just a podcast, it's a movement. Real stories, real people, real purpose, real purpose. Pull up a seat, get comfortable, let's talk purpose, pain, growth, and everything in between. From the heart of Atlanta to wherever you are, welcome to Stool Talk. Let's walk it out in purpose together. So today with us on Stool Talk, we're honored to have a special guest today. Here on Stool Talk, we walk in our purpose on purpose, and today's guest is definitely doing that. A great person that's around the game, a great coach, a great motivator, knowledgeable about the game. She really takes the game, she really takes her players and her craft, the things that God has put inside her, real seriously. So today we'll get to hear her journey and see the impact she's bringing to the game, the players, and the great school, the U. Today we have with us Coach Bri. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. I'm doing good. Can you share with us a little bit about your journey in sports? How did you get inspired? Like, what happened to make you say, I want to go to sports? Did you play it? Did you grow up watching it?
Yeah. So I grew up in a big family. So I have 5 siblings. So there's 6 of us kids. And my parents had us playing in sports like from when could walk. So we've always been involved, but I actually come from a soccer background. So I played soccer growing up. I was actually terrible at basketball. So I actually didn't play basketball. But I played soccer competitively growing up and actually got a scholarship to play at Southern Utah University. So I was a college athlete myself. But when I got into college athletics, as an athlete, I actually, I got hurt. So I tore my ACL twice when I was playing. And so that's what kind of got me more into like the position that I'm in today. I was probably like a lot of kids, in athletics that I was like, oh, maybe I'll be a physical therapist or an athletic trainer if I'm not going to play pro. And I had no idea that strength and conditioning was like even a possibility until I got to college when I actually started training in the weight room. That was kind of like my first experience. And I loved it. I had an amazing strength coach in college who's actually one of my best friends now and a mentor to me. But that's really how I got into it. I spent a lot of time not playing and doing the rehab and doing all of the training to kind of get back to playing. And that's really where I kind of found like my niche of, I was looking around and I was like, well, I want to do something that's going to help prevent or try to help mitigate as much as possible for like athletes getting hurt. Like, how can I do this? Because at this point, like now as an athletic trainer, or like as a physical therapist, I felt like when I was working with those great individuals, I was like, well, now I'm like coming back from an injury. So how do I kind of like get on the forefront of it? And that's when I started talking to my strength coach and I was like, how do you do this? Or like, what do you have to do? Like, what's kind of your day to day? Like, what do you try to do when you're training? And he kind of took me through everything. And that's really where I kind of got inspired. And I was like, oh, well, I want to do that. Like, I want to train athletes. I want to train young female athletes to be as like strong, impactful, confident, so they can stay out on the court or on the field longer than I did. So that's really kind of like what got me into it was, my own personal injuries. And I kind of stepped back and was like, well, there aren't a lot of females that are strength coaches. Like, I haven't seen one. And then 2, like we have a lot of female athletes on campuses, especially in college, that obviously I think any good coach is a good coach, but that I didn't feel like we're maybe seeing that representation, like even though we have incredible female athletes. So that kind of like sparked that. And that's a big reason why I kind of got into strength and conditioning.
Yeah, well, one thing I love about it and reading into your story and just what you do, you are able to relate with the athletes who might get that bruise, might get nicked up, might get banged up, or might even be out for some times. What's some words of encouragement you can say to the athletes out there who are dealing with injuries or coming back from injuries?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like a really hard process. Because obviously like you're being taken out of something that like that's why like you play a sport, right? Like everyone comes to the University of Miami because they want to get a fantastic education, and to be quite honest, they want to play basketball, right? Nobody comes to the University of Miami because they want to be like an exceptional weightlifter with Coach Bri, right? Like that's at the end of the day like not like everyone's end goal. But what I would say is that you have to treat like your rehab and like this process as just as important, if not more important, than you would like a game. Because ultimately it's all the days that you're going to stack on top of each other that are going to help you come back even better. And that like mindset of understanding how to come in every day and attack the day that 1%, when you get back to the court, to the field, to whatever sport that you play, you'll be 50 times the player because you understand what a day-to-day like routine occurrence really is, and you'll take that like you won't take that for granted anymore. You'll know how much work that you had to put in. So I'd say like as hard as it is, be as consistent as you possibly can, because that's just going to lay the foundation for you when you're back, and you're going to feel even better, and you're going to know that you put in all that work prior. Because I think a big thing that like you kind of see too is a little bit of hesitation when you first get back in, because obviously there's in the back of your mind you're like, oh well, am I going to get hurt again? Or am I still going to feel the same way I felt before I got injured? But I've seen a lot with athletes that are coming back from injury that if they've trusted the process, if they've put in the work through that process of whatever rehab that is, they come back way more confident because they rely back on their training, not just how they felt that day. And I think that's like a really big thing too, is you really need to rely on the facts, right? Like feelings are really fleeting, and they're usually not driven by like your overall goal. They're driven by emotions, right? And I think that's something too, that as you're working through injury, like there's going to be days where you don't feel great, and that's okay, but you still got to show up and put in that 1%. And I think that's something that I would kind of pass along is don't focus on your feelings, because there's going to be days where you don't feel great, but there's going to be days that you feel amazing. And it's going to be somewhere in that middle that you got to live. And that's what's going to kind of keep helping that consistency when you're coming back.
Yeah, and you talked about refocusing. Why is that so important to refocus to make sure that you're not stuck in the same place, but you're refocusing?
Yeah. I think mindset and a mentality is something that you can train and is just as important as like the physical training. Because like ultimately at the end of the day, like you only have so many hours that you can like physically work your body, but there is really an unlimited amount of hours that you can mentally prepare, reps in a game, that you can mentally prepare to like how you're going to feel when you show up to every training session or a rehab session or a treatment session. And I think like if you start mentally and refocusing some of those moments when you're frustrated in your rehab or with your injury, those are going to be similar situations you're going to see out on the court or on the field, right? There's going to be times in a game when you're frustrated. There's going to be times when you're going to face some adversity, and being able to practice that refocusing during that rehab like time period or when you're injured is really, really beneficial for actually helping you complete things to the best of your ability as well. So even though there's a physical component to a lot of like what I do, there's also like a mental component of realizing that you actually do have one more gear, or just when you thought that you didn't have more, you really do. And some of that just is from a change of refocus or mindset of knowing like, actually, no, I know I can do a lot of hard things because I've already done it. Actually, no, I know this is going to be hard, but I know I can do it. And I think that's what helps build a little bit of that confidence as well.
Yeah. And you mentioned about burnout and over being overwhelmed. How do you protect the players? How do you protect them to avoid them moments that they might have to go through that?
Yeah, I think it really depends on obviously like what they're dealing with or what the issue might be. Like if they're coming from, you know, maybe a longer return to play or they're coming off of like a more major surgery, I think you really have to break things down into like segments and you really have to make short-term goals, but make sure that you're still reiterating like what that long-term goal is. Because if it is a longer you know, return to play or rehab, you know, there are going to be points where you know it is really hard because you aren't playing the sport that you want to play for a longer period of time. So I think my approach is, you know what, you're allowed to have bad days here and there, but if we're stacking, you know, 90% of good days, like that's going to make some of those like 10% days, that's going to make that adjustable so that I can meet the athletes where they're at. And I think the biggest thing for me too is like communication's got to be, you know, A1, right? You know, I spend a lot of time with the athletes that, you know, we have on campus, more so than probably any other coach, just because of, you know, restraints with NCAA hours. So I generally have like a pretty good sense of, you know, players' moods, tones when they're coming in. And because I spend so much time, I feel like I usually get a good read on a lot of the players as well. So I definitely know when there's days when I can kind of push. And then I definitely know when there's days where I need to probably meet people where they're at and say, you know what, this is what we had planned. But you know what, let's do this instead. I want to do XYZ. How does that feel? And you know that I think that in that area, that's where knowing where you're at and being able to communicate where you're at is really important. And then too, like I think what I've realized too is that there's a lot more to life than just sport, right? And if you really don't want to get burnt out, whether that's me, whether that's an athlete, you really have to find like passion with things outside of just this, because otherwise it'll just consume you. So I love in this, you know, in those tough time periods that, you know, maybe they're out, I love learning about like what else they like doing. So that when they come into work with me, that's not the only thing that we talk about. We don't just talk about basketball. We talk about the music that they like. We talk about what they like to eat, where they've eaten in Miami. If they like coffee, I love coffee. You know, how their family is, how their siblings are doing. There's a lot more to, you know, every person than just like the sport. And I love encouraging athletes, like when they're in those transition times, hey, what do you like doing? Make sure that you're still like filling that cup because you might not be getting everything now just from basketball. So we got to find where you can find a little bit more like self fulfillment and honestly like joy because you might not be getting that every single day because you can't play right now, right? But eventually that's going to swing back the other way. So I think encouraging athletes to find hobbies, to find other things that they're also passionate about outside of just the sport. I found that that's been really helpful with them, but then also like with me as well. Like I'm passionate about things other than, you know, just strength and conditioning. And, you know, when I have my off time, that's what I like doing too. So that's where I felt like a lot of that has come through is one, like learning about people and building that relationship and rapport, but then two, like encouraging it too. Like they're allowed to be people, not just basketball players. Just like I'm allowed to be a person. I'm not just a strength coach. So
How do you balance the demands of leading the program, and what does leadership look like for you?
So I'm really, really lucky. Coach Colep, who's the head coach, is an incredible leader, of not just the players, but of this entire program. And I think it's really helpful having somebody like Coach Colep. She's an incredible communicator. She loves relationships and she's also like very demanding, but in the best of ways, right? You can tell that everything that she does comes from an amazing place. because she just wants the best, not just for her players, but she wants the best for every single person that works for her, in their personal and professional like goals, right? And so seeing that, that's like really that makes my life a lot easier because I have such a great role model for me, but then also the players see what great leadership looks like from the top down. And so for me, like, I wouldn't even say that it's like me leading, but it's just me being an extension of the staff and being able to hold a standard. And that is easy for me because I know that the leader above me, who, you know, is the leader of the program, like those are her expectations and those are her standards. And she provides support and encouragement to you know, myself, to anybody else on the staff, to make sure that the culture of the program, it's everyone's responsibility, it's not just hers. So I feel very empowered, you know, not in like, oh, it's woe is me, or like it's all about me. I feel empowered to make sure that the players understand like what my expectations are, and to not just shy away from them, but to want to exceed them. So that's where I feel like a lot of leadership is it's communication. You know, for me in my setting, I feel like I always want to make sure that like what I'm asking the players, it's something that I feel like, one, that I could probably do myself, or two, that I can explain. And I think that's where a lot of like buy-in comes from, like my area in terms of leadership, is that I feel like I communicate pretty well with the athletes, and they always know what to expect from me. And I really do feel like that comes from, you know, Coach Cullop. She's very clear on her expectations and standards, and she's very clear that the standard is the standard, and we're only the standard or above it. There is never going to be anything that's below it. And that's how I feel like I bring about leadership in my area. And I think that's how players, you know, see like how I'm moving and going about things as well. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does, and it even brings me to this. Shout out to Coach Cullop too as well. When we had her on,
Yeah.
she talked about the different coaches and being able to rely on them to do the job, so she don't got to do all the different things, and it makes the program run smoother when she knows that she got people that can be accountable for, and people that's gonna do the job just as well as she would do it, and all y'all on the same, you know, page, and it ain't individual. So that's what I love with too. So therefore, she don't got to worry because Coach Bri got what she got. The other coach, the shooting coach, she ain't got to worry about it. She can just be able to delegate what she need to do and focus on the main thing, and that's gonna make y'all foundation even much stronger. You know, in that.
Yeah, 1,000%. And I think like the biggest thing too, and like, I think accountability is an interesting thing because, you know, at the end of the day, it all comes out of love, because we see so much potential in all of the players that we have, that we love them so much that we don't want to see them like drop below anything that we think that they're capable of. And I think that's like a really great thing too in terms of like leadership, is that we love every single one of our players so much that we want to see them excel and be successful. And I think that's what real leadership is. It's not about me. It's not about, you know, any other coach. It's about, you know, making sure that we're trying to make these kids and put them in a position to be as successful as humanly possible, not just on the court, but like in life. And that's something that like I've really learned and really appreciated that Coach Cullop has, you know, instilled in this like culture and program, is that, you know, we are going to be like leaders, and we're going to be great people. We're going to be great basketball players, and be a great basketball team, but we're also just going to be incredible humans. And I think that that really is like true leadership.
Yeah. When you talk about purpose, how do you define your purpose, and how has it evolved through your career?
Um, my purpose, honestly, I I always have kind of said this, like I guess if I wasn't a coach, I'd probably be like a teacher. Because I really do feel like as a coach, we are actually just all teachers. And I don't know why, but I think like my purpose is teaching. And and like I guess like my area that I teach is a physical kind of like a physical component, but I just enjoy the communication. I enjoy the rapport, and I enjoy seeing athletes gain confidence in areas that they didn't probably ever think that they could be confident in, and a lot of that just comes down to teaching. Um, so that's what I feel like ultimately like is kind of like I guess my purpose. And I guess the way that it's evolved is I used to think that everything had to be like a lot more rigid for athletes to be able to like pick up on or learn and do. And I still am very like detail oriented and very particular. Um, but I've definitely feel like, obviously as the generation has developed as well, like the communication, the rapport, I guess some of a little bit more of the fun that we can have in the weight room, I think is really important. And I think that is a part of like the whole teaching experience is that although like we are going to work hard, we're going to do things at a high level, that we're going to do things very detailed, we can still have a lot of fun doing it, and we can have a really great training environment to do that. And ultimately I think that all comes back to, are we meeting the standard, and is it excellent? And usually when things are excellent, it's fun, because everyone's working to the best of their ability. But again, like that all comes back to teaching, like what does that look like? How is that going to look in this environment here? How am I going to communicate that with 13 different young women, right? And that's going to change every year at this point. So I think that's how a lot of my purpose has developed. I don't think it's changed in terms of, my purpose is to teach and instill confidence. But how I go about it, now versus almost like 10 years ago, it's a lot different. Just because I think the type of young individual that we have are different. They're a lot more opinionated. They want to know the why. And I think that's allowed me actually to teach even more. Because I should always have a reason why we're doing something, and I should always be able to explain it in a way that makes sense. So I think that answers the question.
Yeah. And then one thing too that you be able to pour out into them, the athlete, whether they're training, whether they're getting stronger, better, that's going to help them for their endurance for the rest of the season, even for recovery. So you're doing a job, you're teaching, you got leadership. So you offer so much that you pour out into them that they are lucky to be blessed to have a coach like you in a position, because sometimes we don't look at the strength and conditioning coaches or the people with physical therapy, the coaches that's really on the day to day helping you make the athlete perform at their very best. Because if you wasn't excellent in what you do, then they wouldn't be able to go put a good product on the court and be able to get the best of their ability to even do the things that they're going to do. So the fact of the matter is that you're being excellent in that is now giving the athlete the ability to know I can be excellent on the court because I trust my strength, I trust my conditioning, and even if I got hurt, okay, my recovery, I trust what Coach Bri is telling me. Now I can go give my all, and it's going to make everybody even much more better in that field. So what you're doing, you love, but we should be thankful that we got coaches like you, more off, and all the athletes as well, because y'all do so much of a great job. Like another person's life depends on, what y'all do and how y'all train them and your scheduling and how you put out what you want for them to do.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously, like, shout out to our athletic trainer, our dietitian, our sports scientist, physical therapist, like, all the coaches, everyone that touches the program. We all have the same goal, and that's to be elite and try to again like have every single kid on our roster meet their potential and expectations. So it's definitely a team effort, that's for sure. Not just player and me, but an entire program. So
Definitely. How have you seen the landscape change with college athletes regarding, personal development, physical and mentally?
yeah, I think it's interesting because, like I said, I do think that the the younger individual now, because, obviously we have like these, right? And they have unlimited access to information. Whether they're getting it from TikTok or from PubMed, I don't know. But I think it's been the biggest change that I've seen is just that players want to know why, or they want to know, okay, so we're doing this because of what, or how does this help this, or can you explain this a little bit more, like why can't we do this, or I saw this instead. So they're just being bombarded by information all the time. And whether that there's probably pros and cons with that, but I'd say like a positive for me is that it's definitely made athletes come up to me and ask me more in-depth questions like, hey, so like, why are we doing that? Or, hey, I saw this on TikTok. Like, do you think tart cherry juice is helpful for recovery? Which, like, honestly, 8 years ago, I don't think a single athlete that I worked with would ask me that. But because they saw it on TikTok, they want to know. So I actually feel like there's been a lot more, I'd say, like interaction of how, what, why we're going about things the way that we are. And I think that just adds a little bit more like positivity to what it is, right? Like, hey, we're doing this because of A, B, and C. And so then they start seeing things line up a little bit more. Or, hey, they see how hard we're training, they're asking questions, and now they're starting to see the results. They're seeing their bodies change. They're seeing that they are getting stronger. They're seeing that some of their force plate data is getting better. They feel better out on the court, right? So then that allows a whole nother conversation. Well, what more can I do? Hey, well, I like the Aura rings that we're using that are tracking our sleep. What else do you think I can do instead? So now I feel like there's a little bit more engagement of like, well, what more can I do? Or like, hey, I noticed this and I feel a lot better. Can I do that again? I think athletes are a lot more in tune with what's going on than what maybe people might think. And I think that's made like my position even more fun, because you do have athletes that are like, well, yeah, but I can do this instead, or I can do this on top of that, right? And you're like, yeah, you can actually, or no, you probably shouldn't because of X, Y, Z. So I think there's just a lot more information that's being like shared and asked, as is probably the biggest change that I've seen, outside of obviously just like the transfer portal. And having like new kids every year. That's been like a big change, especially with training. It's definitely like changed the way that I probably view training for the year. Because at the end of the day, you almost have to treat every year as almost like a brand new roster, whether that's happened or not. So like my mindset has definitely changed because I'm looking at it more of, hey, I really only have 8 months to get these 13 kids as strong and as resilient as humanly possible, because I don't know if they're going to be back. I don't know if they're going to transfer. I don't know if we'll get another transfer in. The only thing I really know is if people are graduating. So I'd say that's probably another big change just in terms of how I've addressed training, compared to maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. But at the end of the day, like that's what sports is. You have to constantly adapt, whether you're, in high school and college or at the pro level. There's always going to be new things that are coming about, and there's always going to be new flares and kind of layers to everything that's going on. And I think the people who are the most adaptable are going to be the most successful. And I think Coach Cullup and the staff have done a phenomenal job adjusting and adapting to, what this new environment is.
Yeah. Before I ask you this next question, I want to ask you this question. This is one I've been wanting to ask. So with everybody wearing low top sneakers now with basketball and this ankle injuries that's happening, is it because the ankles is not strong? Is it because of the shoe not supporting it? Like what's going on with all the ankle injuries? Is it because of there's no mid and high tops no more?
I don't know if I can really like pinpoint one thing or another because, injuries are very, very multifaceted.
Okay.
It does make me nervous when I see basketball players in low tops, just because they are more prone to ankle sprains, and anything past that. But yeah, that one's hard. It depends. There's a lot that can go on about it. Um, I would prefer higher top shoes. But again, like I'm not the one out there playing. So whatever at the end of the day the athlete feels the most comfortable in, and we'll adjust and kind of do what we need to do around that accordingly. We do a lot of stability. We do a lot of ankle and big toe work here at Miami to really kind of address that. So there's things that obviously knowing and being around the sport, obviously ankle sprains are probably like one of the biggest, reoccurring injuries for a basketball player. So just knowing that already, we kind of do a lot of prep work before that. And if we have anybody that does have any type of ankle issue, we'll make sure that we address that, obviously on the prehab side, the rehab side, and then we'll keep addressing that throughout the entire year, no matter what. Whether anyone sprained their ankle, they've sprained it, 4 times. But yeah, I mean, the shoe thing's a little tough because ultimately at the end of the day, like I'm not the one hooping. So whatever they feel comfortable wearing, we'll deal with it. If it really is an issue, then sometimes we sit down and say like, hey, maybe you should try the high tops. But yeah, you just gotta let them play.
What's your goal for your squad this year as they enter this season?
Um, I I want to surprise a lot of people. Um, and I think my biggest goal as a program is to in my areas to make sure that everyone's as humanly available and ready as much as possible. And I obviously I'm a competitor. I want to win. But I don't think everything always comes down to that. But I hope that we get everyone on the same page and bought in, which I think we are, so that we're playing together as a team. And I think that's something that, like, if we play together as a team, we're going to reach, some of our, like, actual goals. But I think my goal is to help foster the environment of a team. And I think that's hard to do nowadays when you have new players in a lot of different programs. So I think, my goal and my hope is to help foster an environment where we are one unit, we're one team, and we're all heading in the same direction.
Everybody gonna see the orange and green coming time. I don't want to play them. They so physical. Y'all gonna be wearing teams down and be able to be,
Yes.
and
Yes.
finally, what's next for Coach Bri, personally and professional? What impact do you hope to keep making?
That one's tough. I'll be like really honest. I've been doing this for a little bit, and I've been at a couple other, programs, and I think personally and professionally for me, where I'm at, like, I love working at the University of Miami. When I first got into strength and conditioning, I think a lot of us, initially are like, oh, like I want to go work for, a big time school and go win a national championship. And that's definitely something I want to win a national championship. But for me, it's evolved over the last couple of years. I really want to work for, a head coach that I believe in, that I know believes in me. That finds value in training and training at a really high level. I want to work with incredible coaches. I want to work with incredible support staff. I want to work with people who want to be elite. And I feel like I found that here at the U. So it's really hard for me to like think, oh, I want to go work somewhere else where a lot of the things that I thought were important or are really important to me professionally, I have here. I work for an incredible head coach. I work for an incredible coaching staff. I work with an incredible support staff. And they allow me to be me, and they allow me to do things that I see necessary and fit in my area to help, aid the program. And I think at the end of the day, like, that's what I want to be doing. They recruit incredible talent. They recruit incredible humans that I love working with every day. So right now I'm happy where I'm at. I love being where I'm at. It's really hard to think of, a lot of different scenarios that would honestly pull me away from something like this, because it is an incredible environment. And when you do find that, like you don't look elsewhere, because there really is nowhere else that you'd rather be. So that's how I feel. I know it sounds a little cheesy,
Oh
but
no. On the flip side, what about training? Like, would you do any training things that you got other coaches who aspire to be in your position to do? Would you hold any of those things off season? Would you get mentors, people that work under you? Because you got to get a game to somebody, coach, you know?
yeah, no. So actually, one of like my first priorities when I first got here. So I'm going on my fourth season. So actually, Katie Meyer was originally the head coach that hired me, and same deal. Like, I wanted to work with an incredible head coach, incredible leadership, and again, like, really fortunate that I was able to work for Coach Meyer for 2 years, and now I'm working for another incredible like head coach and Coach Cullop. But one of the first things that I did when I got here was I wanted to have an assistant position that worked with me in only women's basketball, because I did want to bring in younger coaches every year, to one, mentor them, two, to develop them, and then three, be able to provide even more resources to our student athletes when we're training. So I went to the administration and, proposed it, obviously, said why it was important, what it was going to help, and XYZ, and was able to get the backing from the administration here. And I've had a women's basketball only assistant for the last 4 years that I've been here. So every year that I've been here, I've had a new assistant. I usually make it about a year, so that they're here from the summer till the end of the season, so they see everything. Because I like what you said, I want younger coaches. I want, whether they're male or female, I want them to get the experience that, that they can have here, to learn, to develop, to get better. And then I want to push them out into the basketball world and go keep training hoopers at a high level. So that's something that's actually like really important to me, because I've had incredible mentors, like Dave Scholes, Alan Bishop, Joey Burgess. There's been a lot of guys that have helped me get to where I'm at, and that have poured into me. And so, now that I'm kind of sitting in a position like I am, I want to make sure that I'm, pouring into younger coaches as well. Because at the end of the day, like, I'm probably not going to be doing this in, 40 years. So hopefully, hopefully I can help, some of that younger generation, start getting into this and seeing, like, honestly, what a great opportunity it is and what an incredible experience it can be. So yeah, I do have an assistant. My assistant this year is Paige Rivas. And she's incredible. So it's been fun.
You so selfless, because most people don't think about that. What can I get? Can I get this new shower? Can I get this new money? But you're trying to give, and where your heart is, and God's gonna definitely bless you for doing that, because you're gonna have a coaching tree now. Like, people that worked under you, then they'll be able to say how much you helped them, and you're just paying it back forward. And that's what I love. Before we close it out, can you give words of encouragement to the youth?
Yeah. I do think that this day and age is probably, like, honestly, one of the most difficult to be and figure out who you are. And I think the biggest thing that I hope, like, I have younger siblings, and especially like women, I just think you should have the most confidence in yourself out of anybody, like, out of anyone. And you should never dim that for anything. And I think that is something that I've seen with some of our younger athletes that are coming in, is that as much as things might look like they're confident, there is a lack of confidence. Whether that's just in themselves and their ability, their confidence when you face adversity. Don't shy away from it. It's your ability to, strive and get through that. That's going to make you an even better person. So be confident. I think no matter what situation you're in, you always have yourself. You always can rely on yourself, and that you have everything that you're capable of doing, you can do. And I wish people like believe that. And you see it once you see people believe that, they're unstoppable. But you have it's just like rehab. It's just like training. You have to practice it every day. And the moments where you don't feel confident, you have to shake those off and keep being your confident self every day. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So I don't know if that's any good advice, but
Oh, it is. It is. Well, we thank you, Coach B. We're spotlighting you for all your hard work, shining a light on you and that great program of you along with the other coaches as well. May God continue to bless you. May He give you all the desires of your heart, that you know that you have everything inside you that you need to be great and to be able to do your job to the fullest. May He give you favor to everybody that you're around, everybody you talk, everybody that you coach and even strengthen. And may He give you that great leadership skill that you continue to give what's inside of you, because you got a great heart and you really do this. Like, you can tell just by how you lighten up talking about it, talking about the players, and your impact is very needed. And we need more coaches, more trainers like you and the other coaches at there. So continue to do what you're doing is very well appreciated.
thank you. That was really nice. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean it though. Like, it's like when I ask you different things, some stuff I kind of already knew, but just want you to say it, because just like Coach TC, I've been knowing her because I'm from Toledo where she coached previously, and even hearing how good she was in high school and all this stuff. But some people, it's just in them. They don't talk about the accolade. They don't talk about this. Is what they doing now and the heart that they got, and to hear about all the different coaches, to be able to see your story, read about it, but now hear like with my ear through you in the interview, it's amazing, because I know that she's surrounded. When she talked about y'all, all the different ones, and she said what she was trying to do, I can really see it now. So it's gonna be great. Continue to do that. Like, God gonna bless you for pouring into others as well.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Coach Bree.
Thanks.